Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Monday. It is the Live Lounge. We are here for episode 209 of the Online Darts Live Lounge. Mr. Phil Bars, the famous Mr. Phil Bars, is currently tens of thousands of feet above the Atlantic Ocean, making his way to the Big Apple. So this week, I, Dan Simpson, am joined from all the way on the right-hand side of the screen by Mr. Cam McFarlane. Cam, how are you?
Not so bad, mate. It's good to be on. So there's lots of anticipation in the chat room as to who it was going to be sliding into Phil Bars' spot this week. Yes, you have got me, you lucky folk in the chat room.
It's just like, I'm reluctant to say that. Like, I feel like I'd be doing you a disservice if I said it's amateur hour this week. But
you would be right.
and if people could have seen me clicking around in the back end trying to just even get it started and play the right video coming in and like the very fact that, because honestly, folks, the amount of times that Cam and I have done something like this and we've been several minutes in before we've both gone, oh, we're not live, are we? We haven't clicked.
Oh, it's happened a few times.
We haven't pressed the button. And not only are we like, and I can see these things. I have the keys this week. Not only are we live on YouTube, but we're also live on Twitch and something called Kick as well.
I don't even know what they are. That's how bad it is.
Neither do I. But we are live. We are very much live across those platforms as well, and we will be. Just like Charlie FM, coming in your ears tomorrow when this stream becomes available as an audio podcast. So if you do have to dip out at any point and leave us, don't forget that wherever you get your audio podcasts from, you can catch up with the rest of the show.
Yeah, it won't be any better on second, though. I can assure you that.
It is very nice to see, that because I think, there was no secret that Phil wasn't on the show tonight. So I'm encouraged that even though many folk did know that Phil wasn't going to be here, we are already very, very busy we've got a very busy chat room. I'm going to have a quick look through because a lot of the regulars are in tonight. Malik is in, as is James and Scott. Tyler's in. Dell's in there as well. Paul Jones, a rare appearance from Paul, but he's popped up. He must have heard Phil wasn't on. He must have heard it was the B team out tonight, and he started dipping in and offer a bit of support. Warren is in, as is Marcus. Christina, first live lounge? Surely not. Shelty's in. Matthew as well. Rob, Chris, Daniel, bouncing. Do you know, I'm over the moon that people have actually decided to come back and get involved. Apologies. Anyone that I've missed in there, we will come as always to you in the chat room throughout the show. We're probably going to come to the chat room this evening more than ever as Cam and I scramble around for content and to fill 2 hours. There is no telling, folks, where this show is going to go. We have been left. The inmates have taken over the asylum, and he's 20,000 feet above the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah,
there's absolutely nothing he can do about it.
It's just straight in. Do what you want, lads.
Do they have Wi-Fi on planes? Maybe not. I don't know if he's in the posh seats. He might not have a Wi-Fi.
Probably with the famous Mr. Phil Bars. He's not flying economy, is he?
No, I was going to say, can you take your what it is, Elon Musk's satellite? Can you take one of them onto a plane and pick up your own Wi-Fi? Your Starlink? I don't know. Well, if you know, I was a bit panicked, to be honest, Cam. I looked last week and thought, what are we going to talk about? If I'm at the helm, how am I going to find things for us to talk about? But it has been a busy old week on Planet Darts. We've had Pro Tours. We've got lots of events coming up over the weekend. But I think first venture on tonight's chat around the goings on has got to probably be, I think, an acknowledgement that we've got some black and white things written and confirmed and rubber stamped from the PDC regarding the most important tournament of the year. Might not be our favourite, but the most important.
World Cup that's just finished.
Yeah, the World Cup. But we have had some news on the World Championships, Cam. We are, for this year at least, definitely going to be back at Alexandra Palace.
Yeah, I see that it is for this year at least.
For this year at least. But before we start, we'll talk about the announcements on seedings and other things like that. But Alexandra Palace is getting talked about an awful lot at the minute. I think it was is it about 2006 2007, 2008 maybe, the first time we went to the Palace. And
something like that.
Wise. So last year, the PDC World Championship tickets went on sale. There were 90,000 tickets across all sessions. They sold out in 15 minutes. Does that tell us that
it's not big enough?
Does that tell us it's not big enough, Cam?
It does, doesn't it? Like and yes, okay, I get that you get this with a lot of venues where there's demand for tickets and it sells out very quickly. And I think if we go to a slightly bigger venue, it will still probably sell out in a remarkably fast time. But there does come a point where, as much as it's a great venue, it's an iconic venue in darts, that you've got to go somewhere else. If you can sell another 5,000 tickets every night, you've got to go and do it, because there's too much money in it not to.
Yeah, and we've seen that big increase in prize money, haven't we? And we've seen that get higher. Now, one of the things that I'm not so sure about, and I'd be interested, because you watch probably more sport than virtually anyone I know. And we also travel, and you go to, you've been in the building for all these sports. I know you spend a lot of time going to the cricket. You've been everywhere and all over the place. Now, there is a bigger room at Alexandra Palace, so we could, in theory, my assumption is we can keep Alexandra Palace, but we use the Great Hall and we use the big room, and then everything else has to go in the smaller rooms, and we maybe compromise the fan experience and the other things that are going on. But I'm not so sure whether, yes, there's a huge nostalgia for lots of people, and they see Ali Pali as a big party atmosphere as well. Is it though? Like, we've looked at the Premier League in recent weeks and said we've got a huge or a massive reduction in what we think is the average age of the audience. A newer market for darts. Do we need to look for a venue that's slightly more, and I'm hesitant to say upmarket, but do we need to come away from the nostalgia and look at what do the new fans, what are they expecting? What are their expectations when they go to watch live sport in terms of facilities and comfort and premium upgrades and all the other things that go along with it?
Yeah.
Is that, because I think there's more than just the case for we can sell more tickets, we can earn more money. I don't know what you think.
You can put on a better event. There are newer places to watch it. There are a better setup and built for this sort of thing, which the Ali Pali is not built for this at all. They've just converted it into it. And yes, there is that side of it. And I think you talk about nostalgia with venues, but it will still be the World Championships wherever you take it. Like, there's still the nostalgia for the Circus Tavern and the rest of it, but at some point it outgrows those sort of things. And like, we're not talking about moving it to Wembley Stadium, are we? Like, it's not going to completely take the soul out of it and out of what it is. But there are venues, which me and you have talked about this before, like the Copper Box is a perfect one to use.
Yeah, I think the Copper Box would make a great deal of sense. Because
it's that mid-sized venue. It's not as big as the O2. The O2 is too big to be doing.
You're also not going to get it for that many sessions over that period of time.
No, it's not possible. There's too much that goes on at the O2.
Yeah, you can't book it for that amount of time.
But the Copper Box you could, because realistically, it's not doing a lot the rest of the time.
No, it's not. No. I think you're probably right. I think the Copper Box, it's relatively modern. They built it for the Olympics, didn't they? So it's relatively modern. I think you're looking at a sort of 6,000 seater stadium, 6,000 seaters. But again, I think with that flexibility, I think the PDC can start to look at, like, for me, because everyone keeps jumping to like full, like the full numbers, that you'd want to sell the full numbers. But I just think, I look at what a lot of football teams are doing with their stadiums at the minute, and they're not looking anymore. They're saying, well, we can't make our stadiums any bigger, we can't extend them, this is the size that we can get our stadium. What we need to do is take very large sections of our stadium and build in levels of what we think is premium. Yeah. And levels of, and how much money we can generate because do I think that it will sell out 6,000 people? No. you're going to need for every session, but you are going to need to bring serious money in, because the price to hire that venue is going to be considerably higher. Like it's going to be a bigger investment out of money, and you're going to have to draw more money in. But I do think there is a market now, certainly as the landscape of what we think are darts fans that, for instance, are going and buying Premier League tickets. And we think it's a similar crowd. You know, the Premier League crowd and the World Championships crowd is fairly similar. But I think you can get away with selling lots of premium tickets.
Of course you can.
And if you've got
newer arenas, the space is built in for it as well.
Yeah, if you've got that larger space, you can accommodate all sorts of different things. But I think it would be a great shame. I think there is a logical step, and I would like you. You do think that they'll make the sensible move. And I know we've talked about all sorts of different players.
So someone just made, like Marcus just mentioned in the chat there, about going to the XL. The XL is, again, it's a bigger space than Ali Pali is. But again, there's nothing built into it for like VIP or anything like that. It's essentially a big empty room.
Shell, innit? Yeah.
Convention centre. So I don't really see them taking it there just to have more.
No, I think the Great Hall would make a lot of sense. The Great Hall is a big space. It keeps the nostalgia.
Having been to Ali Pali a few times, like that space that they use for bars and whatever, a lot of it is empty space still, even with the bit that Paddy Power put in with the fan experience and the fan zone.
Yeah.
A lot of it's still empty space. You could still easily fit that into the other room and it not be cramped and it not be too small.
Yeah, and I think again, it takes a lot of thought about what you want people's experience to be. You know, when they get there, like, are you wanting to sell X amount of thousands of 50 quid tickets where people will go in, sit on a bench chair, and buy £10 pints, and that's the or because I truly believe at the minute the way that sport is heading is that the biggest and quickest way to increase your revenue is to look at more premium packaging.
People want that experience now.
Yeah, 100%. It is what people that have that disposable money and are looking to do something once, especially if you're going to do it once a year. If you're going to go to 10 darts events a year, you're probably just having paying, but if you're only going to go to the darts once a year at Christmas, I think when you start to tier that into, do you want to pay £100 but you get this included? You want to pay £150 but you get this included, and you can tier that up. I think that's the way to quickly gather some revenue on it.
No, it is, and I think you're absolutely right. It's the same thing you get, like, say, new stadiums and putting in like tunnel clubs and all sorts like that, where you can pay a fortune for your tickets to go and sit in there and be able to see the players close up walking out or whatever it might be. Like, that sort of thing is what people want, or they want to be sat in a private box up the top, not anywhere near sort of the rest of the fans, and sort of have your own room, someone coming and serving you beer and not have to go out anywhere.
Yeah, I think that, I do think we'll get there one day. I think Chris makes it very. It's the most sensible route forward, like we said, isn't it? You transition, like you say, that room that they currently use as a fans village. You switch it around. You move into the Great Hall. And again, if you put a concert on in there, you've got one stage at the front. You get thousands in because you've got loads of standing. 6,000 in there. It's gonna be a brilliant atmosphere. You can probably dress it and tart it up in a way that allows you to stagger and stage that over a tournament. You could probably open. We've seen it. Especially if you're going to use bleacher seating and something that's moving.
Yeah, you can
build more in as the tournament.
Some of it off, or
gosh, you build the side that the camera aims at, don't you? That's what you do.
Exactly.
You leave the empty bit behind the hard camera.
For future though, you don't have that VIP option though. You can't build in.
And I think that there is. There he is. He's paid for the premium Wi-Fi. He is on there.
Evening. He's there already.
He's making sure the ship's still on course. He's checking in.
If we go offline all of a sudden, it's him in the background.
Yeah, he was going to say logged into the back end and kicked us out. But I do. Yeah, I think that's it. I think there is definitely a logical way forward, which is to keep the same building, switch the rooms around. But I think the way that all sports ticketing is going at the minute, or certainly that from what I'm seeing, is that transition towards more levels of premium seating, because it is simply a way to bring more
it doesn't
revenue.
take long for it to become the iconic venue of darts, does it? Like a couple of events, a couple of years there, and all of a sudden,
Well, no, up until
everyone's
2008.
forgotten about Ali Pali for a couple of years, and then
Yeah,
you watch Darts Gold and you go back to it and you go, oh, I remember when it was at Ali Pali and it was mint there and like a good bit of history, and then we'd take a random event there to make it to like bring that nostalgia back. But at the end of the day, you go, oh, this is the new venue of darts. It's still mint. Like it's no one else. You don't think that with anything else. Like when a football team moves stadium, yeah, there's a bit of that nostalgia, but if the new place is good and it does a good job, no one cares.
Correct. Right. So now we know where it's going to be. We can figure out, we are even closer to what we're going to see. We know where it's going to be. We're starting to see what we're going to see. So the qualifiers, we now know who we're going to get. I'm going to quickly talk through it, and then we'll have a little bit of a chat about what we think, what's good, what's bad, what we think we'll see from it. So we are going to get in the World Championships here, the top 40 from the PDC Order of Merit. We're then going to get the next top 40 non-qualified players in the Pro Tour Order of Merit. So everyone that's not already in that 40 is then going to come through the Pro Tour Order of Merit. Then we've got 48 additional spots where we're going to get at least
international qualifiers, loosely used because they're not all international. Some
I was going to say, I don't like the idea of that phraseology at all. But so I'm just going with additional. We're going to get 48 additional players. We're going to be guaranteed at least 4 women at this year's World Championships at the Palace. I think we're going to get 5. I don't
potentially, yeah, because it looks like Bo will qualify from the Dev Tour.
I think as long as, and I think Bo Greaves picks up a Dev Tour spot, which I'll come to next. But I think so. We're going to get at least 4 women: the women's match play winner and the top 3 women's series players. We're then going to get the World Youth Champion, 3 positions from the development tour, which is why I think Bo's definitely going to be in, because the top 3 is very achievable for it. Top 3 players from the Challenge Tour. We're then going to get 5 from the CDC, 5 from the Asian Tour Order of Merit, 2 finalists from the PDC Asian Championship, 3 from the PDC Nordic and Baltic Championships. We're then going to get additional qualifiers coming through events in Australia and New Zealand, China, the Czech Republic, Hungary, India, Japan, and Poland, and more. We are also then, if you still haven't found a way to, I feel like even you and I are going to be there this year.
We'll have a chance, I think.
Many people getting through.
We just have to pick our venue that we think's got the best chance.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I might have to start hunting around my family tree, see if I can perhaps make it to the Hungarian qualifier or something. We are then still going to have a tour card qualifier for anybody who hasn't managed to secure themselves a spot. We are going to see people potentially going to see people qualify for the World Championships through the Pro Tour Order of Merit who haven't got a tour card. Mervyn King is currently going to Alexandra Palace, having lost his tour card. That earning as well will go somewhere to get him the bloody thing back.
Basically it'd be 90% of the way there if he can win a couple of games there as well.
A lot to unpack, and I appreciate. I've listed an awful lot of things. A couple of other things to mention as well, because that's where they're all coming from. We then got, I suppose, the really interesting bits being confirmed. So, a straight 128 player bracket, no parachuting in at round 2, no buys. Everybody plays from the first one. The top 32 seeds are going to go into the classic seeded slot. So, number 1. Number 32, etc., etc. But around that, complete carnage.
Yeah, I do think Mace is right. Yeah, miss the trick not having a fully open qualifier. There should be one, just like anyone can enter it. As many people.
Yes, and when you're giving that many, when there's that many opportunities going to that many people, I 100% agree. An open qualifier is exactly what it's perfect. Call it whatever, call it the wild card, call it something, but yes, 100%, that's definitely what we should be doing.
Not even you can even enter it if you've played any sort of semi-pro darts.
I'd have it the week before as well.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
do it
a week
do it
before, and
completely.
it's all just pub players. Like
No. See, I like the idea. It's because yes, there's some romance of someone who hasn't had a tour card, who's playing amazing. We'll talk about him later. Someone like a Tom Sykes or somebody like
Yeah.
that, who just blasts through and comes young, up and coming player. Someone from the JDC comes and flies through a qualifying event. But let's be honest, there is also the potential of somebody like a Steve Beaton, somebody like
I think you're right.
a Richie Howson or a Robert Thornton, or somebody coming back, somebody who's someone like Richie Howson who wins darts matches for fun, but never did. I just think the idea of that opportunity, that story, is an absolutely super one. Yeah, and I think I definitely think, Chris, that is a huge misstep. What we then got, so we've got 33 to 64 randomly allocated into the other half of the top bracket. And then the remaining 64 will fill the rest of the draw randomly.
Yeah.
Now, this means that we could have some absolutely staggeringly, excitingly good early clashes between like big names. We could get big players playing each other very early in the tournament. Let's be honest, as a fan,
this is what we want. We want chaos. We want drama. We want people playing proper games early on.
Yeah. And well, I mean, is it not exciting, the idea that we could get, Luke Littler playing, I don't know. Well, he probably wouldn't find it exciting playing somebody ranked in the top 20 so early in the tournament. But yeah, that's what we want, isn't it? We're fans.
Yeah,
we want to see the best games we can.
Exactly what we want. It's what we're here for. None of us. We don't want to know what the outcome is going to be before it's there. We want it to be wide open, and this makes it more like that.
Some very strange people in the chat room. I just think, like Chris Bradley. If I was to pick some, I like to manifest chaos, but there's chaos and there's like that's odd.
Yeah, I did see that. I just moved on quickly. I prefer the shout from CBTV who just saying we get Abdul Nasser Yusuf qualifying.
Yes. Yeah. So initial one for you. Like, do you think first, right? Easy question, binary. Is it better or not?
Yeah, miles better.
I was going to say, are you generally happy with it? Because for me, I'm a little bit like it's a discussion point, but I'm like tick.
Yeah, I was
quite like it all.
When we first heard that there was a very good chance of it going to 128, I thought it was too many, and I thought it was going to sort of just going to fill it with too much shite, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
But what they've done is they've made it better by changing around the fact that there are no buys, and I thought we were going to get longer of people like not coming in until the third round and that sort of thing to fill the 128, and you have sessions where you've not got anyone from the top 32 in them, but that's not the case now, which is miles better. So I'm all for it, and they've won me over.
Are you happy with, because not everybody is, but I think the players aren't, but are you happy with, if regardless of who you are, if you want to win the World Championship, you've got to win 7 games, like you everybody playing from that opening round and having. I
think that's fine. It's like you don't really turn up in any other sport, do you? Where you want to win the biggest event, where you get to play less games.
You wouldn't seed countries through the Football World Cup and say, well, you can come in at the knockout stage.
Yeah, that was my first thought. Or like when you rock up to Wimbledon or something, like Djokovic doesn't rock up in round 3, does he? He's playing from the start.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest. I know that if you play golf, you don't get to come in after the cut if you're better, do you? Like, they'll cut all the shite out and then you come in.
He's playing 2 rounds every week, and he's like he starts on -10. Like, it doesn't work like that.
I tell you what I'm, and again, so Marcus mentioned it there, and because it's all context, we saw quite recently, players from the Asian Tour talking about how they would love to be able to come and commit and try and get to Q School, but the finance is a problem and it's difficult to fund. But like 15 grand first round money. that's going to help some of these players, isn't it? You know, that are coming through that, because let's be honest, if you've come through, you know, an Asian qualifier, if you've come, you know, however you've come internationally through there, whether it's through China, New Zealand, Australia, Hungary, India, but if you've come and picked up 15 grand in December, you might be inclined to stay for a few weeks into January and try your luck on a pro tour, knowing that you've got a 15 grand start point. I think like that, I think is interesting to see how many of those players will stick around for Q School, those international qualifiers.
Yeah, it is. It is massive, and like I say, it's a huge amount of money for the first round, but it has to sort of filter down. If you're going to throw £1 million at the winner, it's got to be the rest of the tournament's got to be in line with that, really.
It certainly does.
And like I say, it does give those opportunities, because it's not easy. We saw it with the Hong Kong pair at the World Cup, didn't we? It's not easy to afford to be able to be here and get through Q School and put yourself through it, and the time you've got to take out of whatever your job back home or whatever it might be. That 15 grand gives you that freedom to go and give it a real go.
I think so, yeah, and I do think, you know, some of those international qualifiers will be looking at that as a stepping stone, as a bridge to Q School, because, and again, everyone's situation is different, and people, you know, people do have, you know, wives and kids and mortgages and families and everything else to think about. But you know, if you're a young Asian player, for example, and you haven't got to think about your family, and you're looking at doing something, you know, if you can qualify through one of those various different routes from the Asian Tour to get over here for the World Championships, pick 15 grand up, then that could give you a very good platform to, you know, get yourself some, you know, rent paid in advance and travel yourself to some pro tour events. And if you can get through Q School, it's a good start point, I think, and it will help some people. Yeah,
that's it. And like I say, the rewards are there. Not even just that 15 grand for round one. Like, you win a game or two, you're so far along to getting your tour card anyway.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to it already. But unlike the PDC, we're going to leave Alexandra Palace and move on, because it has been a relatively busy old week in darts. But we are going to move to Leicester. They've changed the bloody name of it. What's it called now?
The
Mattioli Arena. Yeah,
something like that. That might be wrong, but it's something along that line.
Busy all week on the Pro Tour camp. We've had 3 Pro Tours, and I thought, and again, some of the geeks in the chat room will enjoy this. I particularly enjoyed this. We had Pro Tour number 17, 18, and 19 played on the 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Wonderful!
Of the month. That is I mean, you know. Tell me if you don't appreciate that, you are way down the other end of the spectrum from me. Like, we're on the, you know, you can sit on my part of the spectrum if you enjoyed that one. So yeah, busy all week. We saw, let's be honest, some fairly familiar winners. You know, we didn't get any real rogue surprise, but we saw a few deep runs. I mean, the first one, Pro Tour 17, is the big story Chris Dobey back on the right foot in winning matches, you know, at the right time of year? Is the big story the return of Dirk van Dijvenbode?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? I think we sort of expect Chris Dobey to pick up a few Pro Tours throughout the year. I think that's probably less of a shock. But seeing Dirk back in there, it wasn't just obviously making the final and losing out 8-7 on the first day of play this week, but he also, I think, made at least a quarter-final in all 3. If I remember rightly, I might have made that up. But yeah, back to form a little bit and good to see.
Yeah, it's there was a couple of, you know, not so much rogue runs, but, you know, we did see Michael Smith start to dig in, you know, that first day. We knew this week, and certainly the last 2
needs at the moment, doesn't he? Like,
are so big, because we'll talk about the match play qualifying at the minute. The important thing to remember for now, folks, is that Michael Smith is not going to the match play. Not only that, but he's about $4 grand shy of going to the match play. So he has got to get something done very soon on. I think we've got 2 Pro Tours left, haven't we?
Yeah.
I think that's what, like, the time is running out to qualify for the match play. He managed to drag himself through a little bit. We saw a bit of a run from Thibaut Tricol on that first Pro Tour as well. And that's a man who really needed it, because we are not seeing what we hoped for. Well, it's not what we hope for. We're not seeing him play the way he can, are we, this year on tour?
No, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, with him, he's one of those players that he's so talented and he can do it. The game is there, but we're just not seeing it regularly, and we're seeing him playing more often, but it's not translating into better results, unfortunately, at the moment. But it was a better run for me. Yeah,
and like I said, it's troubling one, isn't it? Where we know the game is there, but he finds it so rarely that it is difficult to see. He's likely to keep his tour card this year. What I think he really needs to unlock, on tour over the next year or two is whether or not he's going to be a player who sort of keeps his tour card. If that's the rotating churn is keeping the tour card, rather than is he going to be able to string a few wins together and start to qualify for things more regularly, and start to move through. We move to the 18th for number 18. Perfect. And this was an absolutely storming day, a stellar performance from Stephen Bunting, showing why he is where he is and what he is. What a day from Stephen Bunting.
Absolutely class from him. That's the main takeaway from this. It is just what Stephen Bunting can do, and what we know he can do, and what we forget about sometimes when he has a bad run at the Prem. Like, we talked about it for so long, but he is genuinely world class.
Yeah, it was monstrous. Like the whole day. I think someone put in the chat room that the average for the day was rounded up.
102, wasn't it?
102. Across the day, like, highly impressive. And that is, but also it wasn't just like he won in different ways, which is impressive. Like, the averaging 106.5 against Alan Suter, like, that is, like, you can't argue, that is very impressive. But then like that coming through that semi-final, winning a deciding leg, 7-6, beating Dave Chisnell, averaging less than him, doing the right things, that's another, that's his different ways of winning. And over the course that he's played amazing darts, but he's also he showed some bottle as well. It's not just that his scoring was really good
out at times.
Yeah, he's had to, he has had to get stuck in. I am a bit of a thought, like, I don't want to take anything away from Stephen Bunting because he played amazing all day. That is one of the most rogue quarterfinal lineups of any Pro Tour event I've seen for ages. When you look at the quarterfinals, we've got Cam Crabtree, Karel Sedlacek, Benjamin Royce, Mike De Decker, Jermaine Wattimena, Neil Sonneveld, Dave Chisnell, Stephen Bunting. Yeah. Now, I accept Chisnell Bunting regularly in there, like, all good players. Like, I mean, no disrespect to any of them, especially Mike and Jermaine, because they're top end. But you do look at that and think, where are all the
yeah, well, where's everyone else gone today? Like, what have they been doing? Because you always expect a couple of them to make it through, at least.
Yeah, it was an intro, but good to see. And these are the Pro Tour runs that, for players like that do end up being important when it comes to who gets those spots at the World Championships and who gets to go and qualify for the Players Championship finals. Like, these are important runs because not all of these players will get one of those runs in a season. Some of them won't. Some of them will not get a quarterfinal over the course of a season. So if you can grab one, then it is very important to do so. And the final event, number 19, on the 19th, saw, after a 3-year absence of a Players Championship event win, we saw James Wade pick up a win. And could the machine just be finding the right type of form as we get to the business and the trophy lifting part of the season?
Yeah, quite possibly. I mean, he just knows when to peak, doesn't he? He's always known when to peak, and he's always been able to do it. And yeah, really solid performance from him, especially in the final. Like, 101.52 average in the final from him to comprehensively beat Scott Williams, who himself, really good run from him. Another one that making his way through there, you might not have had maybe making a final if you were predicting it at the start of the day. And again, a bit of a rogue sort of quarterfinals list again, really. Like, obviously, Wade and Van Veen, you sort of expect to maybe make it in there. Damon Heta, again, who made another quarterfinal after making a semi-final on the Monday as well. But then, like, you look at Scott Williams, Bradley Brooks, Vessel Nyman, Alan Suter, and Andrew Gilding. You maybe wouldn't have them in there.
There's a few
Brad
come
Brooks
from
had a really
nowhere,
good that day, to be fair. I think he beat Brendan Dolan 6-0 in the last 16, if I remember rightly. But yeah, good run from him. Obviously, a player that's not got a tour card at the moment and taking advantage of an opportunity. That's not a tour card, but it's like not sort of taking his way towards going and keeping it at least.
Yeah, and you know, I think these runs are going to be very important. You know, very important for different reasons for some of those players that are able to get right, or certainly to the back end of some of these events. The big thing on the horizon at the minute, and we are very much closing in on it, is the match play in Blackpool, which we've got a cut-off of July the 10th. So we've only got 2 more Players' Championships. That's all that there is left. I am fairly happy now, and people might say I'm a bit of a grump and a bit negative to say.
I wouldn't have that said.
Right, so it's because I'm
not when there's me and you on here.
Because I've not had a drink. That's why. It's because I'm sober this week. That's right. I've not had a drink.
Yeah, that's a water.
Bloody hell! All right. So
it's not wonder what is it?
I'm going to say
it can't usually function.
I'm going to say it's done. I think the bottom end of that. I think you've got Ryan Joyce, who let's be honest, Ryan Joyce is no mug. Like he's not in amazing form, but he's no mug. And the idea that Michael Smith is going to turn $4,000 around.
It is a lot. Right.
That means he's gonna. So that would need. You've only got 2 events, right? So that would either mean that if Ryan Joyce went out in the first round, then he'd have to. He'd have to make 2 quarterfinals or 1 semi-final.
I think if he's going to do it, he's going to have to win one.
And let's be honest. I mean, I'd love to see it.
Guarantee that he's going to do
Maybe
it.
I wouldn't love to see it. Maybe do I want to see it? I don't know. If
I want to see Michael Smith
there. But the problem is, do I want to see Michael Smith there? Yes, I do. Do I want to see Michael Smith more than I want to see Ryan Joyce not there? That's the
well, looking at it and looking at where people are at.
Or does Barney?
I think it's more likely Barney drops out of it than Ryan Joyce.
Well, especially because, interestingly, we'll come to him in a bit, because he's playing a bit of darts elsewhere next week.
He is, yeah.
Is Raimondo. So maybe he's just getting some extra practicing because he knows that it's squeaky bum time for the.
Well, possibly, yeah. But I get the feeling that. I don't want to be cynical, but I don't think that's the case.
No, I think someone's paying him a few quid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you were to say, like, if someone said, right, where's your 50 pence, Cam? What does it look? Does it finish looking like it is now, or do we have a Michael Smith or even a Christoph Ratajski or a
Richie Edhouse? Richie Edhouse is probably a.
Richie Edhouse has got to win one though, but not only does he need to win one, is he needs Barney or Ryan Joyce to have 2 stinkers. In the chat room, what are we thinking? Anybody else? Is it done, or is Michael Smith going to get there? If he does, who doesn't?
I say Michael Smith makes it ahead of Raymond van Barneveld. That is my prediction right now. I'm going bold, and it might be a little bit heart over head, but it'll be more fun that way if that happens. Because we need there to be some jeopardy in them 2 Pro Tours before we go to the match play. It's got to be interesting. Something's got to go on. And we know that something always happens in the PDC. There's always something going on.
And there is generally something happens in the run-up to the match play as well. Like there's generally always something rogue going on in the match play qualifiers. I mean, that is a shout, Warren. And if you do put your 50 pence on it, I'm sure you will earn every bit of the odds that you get for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well deserved if you do.
Bonneville to win a Pro Tour. Paul, again, not sure how Smith. Marcus still thinks that we could get another event win from Christoph Ratajski. I mean, he's shown that it's possible, hasn't he? I mean, I suppose that's the, if you look at form, if you look at the bottom end of those in the green and the chasing pack, the form player is Christoph Ratajski.
Yeah.
And Bob's right in the chat room that if Christoph had made those Euro tours, then this wouldn't be an issue for him. He'd have pissed getting there.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the thing, isn't it?
And it would take it on a bit of a like. And I know we're going to bounce around a little bit tonight because I won't be anywhere near as organised as he normally is. But we've in what I think is a relatively short period of time. 3 match plays ago. 4 match plays ago, 2021. Yeah. Christoph Ratajski is in the semi-final of the match play.
Yeah.
And now he's looking highly unlikely to qualify.
Yeah.
And in recent years, last year, his sort of taught, 3rd round of the Worlds, 2nd round of the Masters, 2nd round of the match play, 2nd round of the Players' Championship finals. A bit of a run in the UK Open, got to round 5, but offhand I couldn't tell you who we played to get there. I don't know how good that that run was in the UK Open. Is Christoph Ratajski a player that you worry about? Like, could he fall out of that top end of the tour? And he looked like he was going to really be established, didn't he? At the top end of the game, he was semi-final.
He's in that worrying spot at the moment, isn't he? Of 33, where you get outside of that top 32 and it gets a lot more difficult. Like the same with being out the top 16, but then the next step down is you get out of that top 32 and it becomes a lot harder. And once you're on the outside looking in, it's a lot harder to get yourself back in there as well than it is to maintain that spot. And that is the worry, especially if you start missing events like the match play. And yeah, I think it is a bit of a worry for him.
I feel like
you say, if he goes and wins one of these 2 events, then he's comfortably in there. Like you win one, you're in from the spot that him and Michael Smith are in, sat there about $6,000 behind. Like you pick up 15 grand for winning one. You're jumping in there. Even making a final might be enough, along with a semi-decent run the day afterwards.
Yeah.
I forget sometimes how much money's there, isn't there, for winning one?
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's a lot of money, isn't it? I normally manifest chaos so hard as well, but sometimes
if
the realist
Ryan Joyce in 16th, you'd be all over chaos here.
Yeah, you're right. If it wasn't Ryan, I'd be thinking, fuck it. Yeah, Smith wins 2, pisses through. Michael Smith goes back to back,
wins 2, and ends up in the top 8 on the order of merit.
Yeah, and I tell you what he'll do as well is he'll beat Christoph Ratajski in one final and Richie Edhouse in the other, and it'll be absolute carnage.
Yeah, and then all sorts has gone on. Out and Joe Cullen and.
Well, it will not be long, folks. It will only just be a matter of a couple of weeks before we will start being able to finalise that lineup for Blackpool and start to discuss who we think is going to do what when they get there as well. We have got we had quite a bit of darts to talk about in this week gone, but there's quite a little bit of darts coming up over the next week or so. I think first we'll probably head out over to New York City, where we will have the Bet365 US Darts Masters as the World Series of Darts continues. The World Series of Darts remains a rather interesting one. Some people think it's amazing. Others think it's completely pointless. However, what your feelings are on the matter are irrelevant because we're still going to see the Premier League. I mean, no, most of the Premier League. We have got,
Damon Hatter in there.
All but the best one, unfortunately. Quite sad, this one. However, we've got Luke Humphries, Luke Littler, Michael Van Gerwen is travelling to America. We haven't seen Michael for a little bit of time. We're going to have Stephen Bunting, Rob Cross, Gerwin Price, Damon Hetter, and Nathan Aspinall. They will be taking on, or certainly I'll be meeting in the first round anyway. Matt Campbell, Jim Long, Danny Lowby, Jules Van Dongen, Leonard Gates, Anam Saveda, Jason Brandon, and Sto Bunce. Right. So the question that we ask each other and ourselves and the chat room, and I know we haven't got a draw yet, so it's difficult to really.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit tougher to.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it anyway because we won't get a draw between now and when this tournament happens. So we have to. No, so we're just going to do our best. Who, if anyone, or do we see a US player? Does one of the CDC representatives make it through that opening round? Let's assume that they get a draw that you think is winnable. But do we see somebody in there that could? And again, I'm not even talking about winning it, but on these World Series events, we haven't seen a great deal of home players winning this year. So will we see one in America?
I'd like to say yes, just to make it interesting, but I don't really see it. Like, there's a lot of talent there. Like, even if you start off, Matt Campbell's been around forever. He's very, very talented on his day and can beat anyone on his day. But like, you look back to the World Cup and he was shy.
Like, his days are becoming fewer and further between, aren't
they? They were not good, the Americans, in the World Cup. So that's a bad. Not the Canadians, sorry. And the Americans also weren't good in the World Cup. So, like, I like Danny Lowby. I want him to do well, but do I think he's playing well enough at the moment? No, I don't. Jules Van Dongen is obviously not anywhere near at the moment. He's had his issues.
So here's the harsh question then: should Jules? Because I talked about in the World Cup, and I was quite. I thought because the World Cup was the event that it was, and he knows where his game is. He's represented his country. I accept that everybody needs to earn a few quid, and if you need the money, you need the money. But
not only that, you want to be there as well, and it's something you want to play in. But would the US have had a better chance if someone else had played in it? Absolutely, because he's really struggling at the moment, and it's not his fault.
Should somebody, if not him, intervene to say, give this one a rest, Jules? We don't think getting pumped in New York by one of the Lukes.
It's almost that like old boxing adage of, do you just pay him step aside money to say, look, it's better.
Well, they are paying him step aside money. First round losers money is 1,750 quid. Like,
oh yeah, that's true.
That's his step aside.
What I mean is like someone from the CDC to say.
So the thing is,
if it looks better on us and it looks better for the sport, if someone that's able to compete properly does this, yes, it should be your spot. So you know what? You can have your 1,750 quid. We'll pay you that, and someone else gets to go.
And so Campbell, Long, Lowby, and Van Dongen are all there as North American PDC tour card holders. So, we had Leonard got there by winning the cross-border challenge, and then the other 3 have qualified. So, like, for me, I think, like, the PDC should probably tap the lad on the shoulder and say, look, like, no one's guaranteed. Fucking hell, Chris Dobie didn't get invited for starters. I haven't got. I think because I don't know whether, and I respect it's his life, it is, and I've seen the interviews where he's trying to show his kids that like you shouldn't be defeated by things, but sooner or later, I think somebody's going to tap him on the shoulder and say, look, darts doesn't have a lot of guaranteed money in it, and knowing that you can turn up to an event and pocket $1.5 grand, like
I don't think you can tell him no. Like he's earned that right to earn that money. So if you want him to not play in it, which I think for the good of the sport and for the CDC and how they look on the stage, you don't want him to play. But if you don't want him to play, you've got to pay him then. You've got to pay him that 1,750 quid. Maybe even a little bit more if he says, yeah, but I could win $5 grand if I get through that game. You maybe got to give him $2 grand to step aside.
Well, that's the difficulty because, we've seen loads of players like this, and sometimes they, whether they believe it or not, but the narrative they'll often give you is that it feels like it's that far away.
Yeah,
like it feels, I feel like it's that far away. I'm telling you, like, I can't sympathise with that. I played a doubles tournament last night, and it felt fucking that far away all night. Yeah. Like I didn't.
Then you'll play next week, and you'll probably
I think it's. I do think that there's a case to be made that it might not be the best thing. I get that it's hard for him on the tour at the minute. So then sticking him on a stage in Madison Square Garden might not be the most responsible thing to do.
No, it's not. But from his point of view, he, as much as anyone else, he probably needs that money as well. I
think, Jules Van Dongen aside, I think that there are a couple of chances. I think, and this is where
say we don't get one. By the way, I know I was waffling along for a little bit, but yeah,
I'm going to go 2, and it all depends on the draw, right? I'm going to say that I think it depends on the draw, but if the draw worked out in this particular way, and this is interesting because we've talked about the US and we've talked about how some of the players that are more in form and playing better are the players that haven't got a tour card, because the 2 players that I think have got the chance to pick it, that could pick a win up are players without a tour card. I think Adam Cerveda and Sto Bunce are probably the most likely to pick one up. I think if either of those 2 get drawn against Michael Van Gerwen or Rob Cross, then they've got a real good chance, I think, in those 2 matches, in those circumstances. If the draw worked out like that, I think
defending champion Rob Cross you're on about there, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But I don't think he's in the same place that he was last year.
No, neither do I. But I was just
he's not in the same fucking tax bracket. Let's say, like, he's not. Yeah, so I don't think he's where he was last year. I think the form has. What I do think is I think Rob needs to find some fucking form quickly, because we are getting into trophy season. There's going to be a lot of darts, and a lot of opportunities to both win lots of money, but also there'll be opportunities where he's going to have to defend some money that he's got on his ranking as well.
It's not on live TV in the UK. I'm pretty sure it is live on ITV4.
Yeah, I think it. I think it's ITV.
And I think it is actually live on it this year. Whereas I think, was it last year or the year before where they showed it on a delay the day afterwards?
Yeah, we got selected highlight. Delayed
no, I believe it is live on ITV4 in the UK, and obviously if you're watching worldwide, is it still on Viaplay still going? I think they are, them and DAZN.
Warren makes an interesting point there in terms of Leonard, because like in fact I am going to do Leonard a disservice, is that like we've seen great things from Leonard in England, and we've seen him come to England. We've seen him play in the seniors. We've seen him play all over the place and play very well. And he does it in a way that I genuinely often am completely baffled as to how, because I've seen Leonard turn up at events, having been on a flight for Christ knows how many hours, like landed at 3 o'clock in the morning, got an Uber, got a taxi, like, grabbed something to eat, turned up, slept for half an hour in the players' room, and then cracked on playing. Like, and not like the idea that I see the man play as well as he does, but see how like unprepared he must physically be. Because I'm like, because I can literally say, well, he was on a plane so many hours ago, and I know he's just had a kip on that sofa out the back. Now he's on stage 5 minutes later, and I think, well, we do see though great things from him in playing in America. Like he pissed the cross-border challenge. Nobody got near him, and there were some serious players in that tournament, and he flew through it. And I suppose him playing in America without that absurd journey around the country, flying in, getting in late, getting in just in time for an event, grabbing a sleep in a taxi or wherever he can, I think puts him in a rather interesting spot. And again, I think draw dependent, there's a chance that he just gets pumped by, a monstrous loop performance, either or. But again, I think depending on the draw and if he can turn up fresh and ready, I think, Leonard could do some damage. It'd be good to see that. Is it what we want to see? Do we want to see a surprise?
Of course we do. We always want chaos.
Yeah. And let's be honest, like,
I don't think we will get it.
The World Series of Darts, how much does it matter really? Like,
not really that much, to be honest, but the World Series of Darts finals is one of the greatest events you'll ever go to if you get the chance.
You like it, don't you? You're a big fan of that.
I had a great time.
Is it just the spectacle of the event rather than you're not? I'm sure that you see the hilarious. Someone played one match in Australia, got beat, and manages to be at the finals like that. It's unusual, isn't it?
It's just like the atmosphere was fantastic. Like just being there for it was class. Like, am I that asked about watching it sat on my sofa? No, not really that bothered.
Yeah.
But if I'm in Amsterdam and I'm having a weekend of it and go into all the sessions, it's class.
Yeah, I'll give you that one then, mate. I will give you that. Right. So that's what we're going to do. I say that's what we're going to do. We're not going to talk about it. That's where Phil is gone. Phil is there is also and the information, folks, is all over our social media. So keep an eye on. I mean, if you're subscribed to the channel, which you bloody well should be. If you're subscribed to this channel and you have turned on notifications, then you'll get a little beep when it happens. But make sure you are prepared and ready, because we are teaming up with the guys over in America from Shooting the Bull podcast. Anthony over there. We're very familiar with him, friend of the channel. Phil Bars is doing a core live show over there. So we're going to have a live lounge live with a Shooting the Bull all rolled into one over in New York. So that that is this week. I can't remember exactly when. Friday, I think. In fact, I'm fairly sure it's this Friday. Keep an eye on all the social channels and find out when it is. It will, as always, be just available generally to watch afterwards on YouTube, etc. So keep an eye open for that. Right, what are we going to talk about next? What have we done so far? We've done this. Oh, do you know what we should do? We should talk a little bit about, because I'm interested to see what you make of the fact that it's that we've got we've called a ringer in to play.
That is what we would be calling it if it was in our local league.
Yeah, that's what we call it in ours. Interesting odds as well. But we have got the World Seniors Champion of Champions. We've got a change in event from last year. The last year we were in Blackpool, where Richie Howson won the event. This time we are down in Portsmouth. The draw is out, so we can start to see who we think might play who. But I suppose the big talking point is the fact that we've got a player there playing in the World Seniors. He's going to be playing in the Modus Super Series room. He's going to be on Pluto TV. So he's going to be live streamed, shown on television. But he's got a tour card.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on, like, is this a good thing? Is this opening the door to all the tour card holders who are skint and, you know, pleading poverty, and they're doing second jobs and working in warehouses and delivering fish and chips and all of that? Is this is this the first of many?
Being able to go and do what they do, because there's now a precedent set.
Or has somebody found a loophole that will be closed very quickly? What do you think?
It's one or the other, isn't it? It's either someone has been very smart in spotting a loophole and exploited it while it's still there, in doing so ruining it for anyone else being able to do so because it will get closed.
Because it'll get closed.
Or is this the opening of saying, you know what, at the end of the day, you are all self-employed independent contractors. You can go and do whatever you want to, because actually it's not watertight enough that we can stop you doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this in other sports. We've seen it.
Snooker's sort of teased it, haven't they?
Yeah, we've seen it in sport. We've seen it in snooker. We've seen it in golf. We've seen it. We've seen it in a number of different sports, and we also see other sports. That you and I follow a lot. Sports like boxing, where
Johnny says there's no loophole. He asked permission. It was granted. Yeah, I mean, that's the story, but the conversations that led to that generally means there was an opportunity for it to happen, and rather than having a legal battle, they allowed it.
If you are someone like Steve Beaton, for example, who handed back his tour card,
yeah,
and then booked and came to play seniors events, are you looking at that thinking, "Fuck's sake, I could have kept all of that tour card. I could have had another."
I think less that he's probably thinking, I could have won this the last few years.
Yeah, yeah. It's. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's interesting if it sets a precedent where players can have a bit more freedom to go and earn money and put bread on the table from playing darts, which is what they do. Then I think it's a good thing. I think the more competitive darts that people can go and play, then the better, and the more people that can do it.
It improves the standard
exactly across the board.
Yeah, sitting when we look at Q School, and like we sat there on streams at Q School, and we're watching people that have played in the Super Series a lot. That experience of playing on stages for money, for big sort of titles outside of the PDC, it helps, and it does make you a better player overall. So yeah, anything that sort of increases the standard and gives players opportunities to go and improve themselves, I'm all for it, really. But whether we actually see any more, I don't know. But it does certainly open the doors to that and to people being able to. My
worry is, like, I'm a big fan of the seniors events. As like, there's no secret of that. I thoroughly enjoy it for a number of reasons. Like, I think I've had great fun, interviewing players there, and just generally the experience, the level of closeness, to the action that you get. The fans of the World Seniors darts are genuinely like no other darts fans.
Yeah.
Like, I know we've got some of them in the chat room, but they are a unique group of quite wonderful, lovely people. They're incredibly welcoming. They know their darts inside out. And I know there is some frustration amongst that community that what we're seeing this year from World Seniors darts isn't what they wanted. They wanted more events over several days in venues that were not in that location, right on the bottom of the country, are very difficult to get to.
Not only that, there's not a lot of tickets in there either.
Yeah, where you can go on a Sunday, because it's one day event on a Sunday. Not ideal when people have got to travel or people want to go and have a drink, etc.
Yeah.
My worry is that whilst I think like it's a massive get for them to get Barney, and however it's come about, My concern is it might be too little, too late. And that if they could have pulled that off last year for the Champion of Champions, and then ended up, and then gone into something, later on, and then with that addition of, I mean, again, Simon Whitlock underwhelmed at the World Championships. I don't think, whilst the players that played the World Championships this year played very, very well, there were some fucking brilliant games, really good games played to a really good standard, and the players that made the final, Ross Montgomery and Graham Usher, both played great weekends. But it wasn't what I think it could have been in terms of its what's the best way I'm going to look for? Like commerciality. Whitlock underwhelmed out in the first round. Merv King underwhelmed out in the first round. We saw those players that had dropped off tour struggle. Steve Beaton played all right. He played. I mean, Steve played well. But he didn't get as far as everybody thought he was. And what we saw was the players who were up the top end of the betting didn't do particularly well. Now, I find the betting odds interesting for this one. I'm going to talk through them just because I think it's intriguing.
Before we go through odds,
go on.
Obviously, Barney's in there as a wild card. How does a wild card end up seeded? It doesn't sit right with me. I know why, but I feel I've got to ask the question.
I refer you to my comments on the previous event when Simon Whitlock went out in the first round.
I can't sit here and not call it out because it doesn't.
I think,
and I think for the other players that are playing in it, will be less than impressed with it.
I do think, but also I think it's a very easy question to answer in that if you can look at it and say, look, the rest of the tour aren't playing with tour cards. Some of these people are years away from playing at that level. And he's an active tour card. In fact, he's currently qualified for the match play. So the idea of not seeding him, you could almost scoff and giggle at in the same way. If you depend on how you want to paint the narrative, you could scoff and giggle at it.
Yes, he's right. Yeah, same way he's fighting for a world title when he's not fought him.
Yeah, exactly. Because
a pound note is always more important than anything else. But I wasn't letting it go without at least mentioning.
No, and quite right.
Where have you found the betting odds for this? Because I have not.
I've got the wait. Come on, Cam, get with it. I'll tell you where I found the betting odds with the title sponsors, of course. I have found the betting odds on with Bet Goodwin, who are the title sponsors of the World Series. And I tell you what, they're bloody good chaps as well. The managing director, I've managed to spend a bit of time with these guys that they really enjoy World Seniors Darts. They are good folk, and they've done quite a bit of work to keep the word out there. So we've got an unsurprising favourite in Raymond van Barneveld at 7-4. Steve Beaton at 7-2, I think, is a bit short for my liking.
Moving. Are you looking the same place as me?
Yeah, Champion of Champions outright. Bet Goodwin.
Yeah, I'm on Bet Goodwin's side. It's 9-2 on mine. So if you want me to put it on for you, are you getting an extra couple of quid for you?
Decent chance that I've just it is 9-2. I've read the wrong one down. I honestly thought I'd moved the market there with the with the CSC and that, and I think, oh Christ, I've done something. Mervyn King is 11-2. John Henderson, who a year ago was winning everything, he was winning every event on the World Seniors scene, is 7-1. Richie Howson, the defending champion, is 7-1. Simon Whitlock is also 7-1. Ross Montgomery, who's the reigning world champion, and only a few months ago comfortably worked his way through the field to pick up the World Seniors Darts World Championship, is 10-1. Neil Duff and Richie Burnett, who I would argue are two of the most active players. And let's pretend we're not talking about Barney at the minute, but in terms of getting about and playing in competitive darts and playing at a good level at the minute, we're seeing an awful lot of darts from Neil Duff and Richie Burnett. And for them to both be at 16-1, I think is some value. And Martin Adams at 40-1 is...
This is the thing that throws me a bit with this market. Like, I know that obviously looking at the draw, obviously Neil Duff has got to go through Barney in the second round if he beats Martin Adams. But if you've got Martin Adams at 40s for the competition, Neil Duff beats him at 16s. Like, he only then has to get through Barney, and all of a sudden you're making a lot of money back if you start laying it. If he's playing someone that's the rank outsider in the first round, gets to play beforehand as well, obviously. You'll already have played a game on the stage.
He's played a match. And let's be honest, Neil Duff has played a lot of games on that stage. Like, Neil Duff's played on that stage about as much as anybody. This is the closest thing to a home match as Neil Duff is going to get. Like, this is a home fixture for Neil Duff.
Yeah, and the thing, and same with like Ross Montgomery at 10s. Like, yes, he is in the same side of the draw as Barney, but anyone that wins the event is going to have to beat Barney anyway. So regardless of whether you play him early on or play him later on, it doesn't really matter. I think the pricing's a bit out for me on a few of those.
I don't mind it though.
I'm a huge fan of it.
I was going to say, you know, just in the interest of politeness and fairness, it's worth mentioning as well. I was two missing off the end, and I wouldn't like to think I'd offend anyone by missing them. Kevin Painter is 50-1, and Trina Gulliver is 100-1. I do think there is some value there, you know, and because I just think that there's too many. Like, Martin, I know is struggling. Like, the last 5 or 6 times I've spoken to Martin, like the interviews are on our channel. Like, you ask him how he is, and he gives you a big list of everything that's broken on him. You know, this is like, I was the throw feeling back. Well, crap, because this is fucked me. Elbow, you know, fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulder, everything. Like, so I just think, you know, certainly in those opening rounds, you know, Neil Duff is at it. You know, he's an active professional darts player, whether he holds a tour card or not. And then I just think, once Neil Duff comes through that and beats Barney, I don't dislike I think there's some very watchable darts here. I think Merv King will come through Kevin Painter. But then I think that Mervyn King against Richie Howson is a great game. I think, unfortunately, I think Merv's game at the minute is in a better place than Richie's. Richie has again produced some very, very memorable darts on the World Senior stage, and he's the defending champion, of course. But you know, Merv's producing it again. You know, at the minute on Pro Tours with the very best in the world.
So someone asked. Paul asked, has the actual format been announced yet? No, not as far as I can find anywhere. So yeah, 501, 3 darts each, I think is as much as I can give you on an insight in that.
Man, that's bold. That's bold. No, it hasn't yet. I don't know when it will, but let's hope it's soon. Yeah, I think you know, there's a really interesting little sub bracket in there with Simon Whitlock, Richie Burnett, and John Henderson. You know, those three. And, you know, again, I just think there's not really a weak spot in there in terms of, you know, matching them against each other if they're all at it. You know, and again, I just think, you know, Ross Montgomery, we've seen he can be dangerous. You know, we've seen in this seniors format, he will win games that people don't expect him to win. He will take money off bookmakers and he will upset people that think they're going to go through to the next round. And we've seen him do it, you know, in these tournaments at this level with the seniors. Who beats who in the final? Cam, do it in the chat room as well, please. Who beats who in the final? Now, just if you can't see the draw, because Like, I am a mile away from being competent enough to be able to put this on. But how do I? No, I don't even think I can at the minute.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to basically give a list of possibles against the others, but I can't give the 8 against the 8. I don't know who they are. It's tough.
I've got. Yeah, in terms of the draw, you've got Ross Montgomery against Trina Gulliver or Steve Beaton. Winner of those plays, the winner of Barney against either Martin Adams or Neil Duff. And then bottom half of the draw, you've got Richie Howson against the winner of Mervyn King or Kevin Painter. And John Henderson against the winner of Richie Burnett and Simon Whitlock.
So, I think the biggest question here is, does Barney blast his way through? The problem I've got is I've been wrong so many times for seniors events by picking Neil Duff.
Yeah.
But then I often, every time I look at the individual games, you know, when I like talk my way through the bracket, I find myself going, well, Neil Duff, Neil Duff, Neil Duff. And then, and it's like, and that's the thing, because I talk my way through the bracket and I talk my way into it. The key is that Barney game. But I just think, yeah, you make a really good point where Barney comes in cold onto a stage that Neil Duff's played on.
Played on a lot, but also played on already that day.
Yeah. He's already played it that day. He's already played it before. I think Mervyn King beats Neil Duff. That's trying to talk myself out of it there. Went all the way down one side. I
think you're going to say the same, and then but I don't want to now because you said it. I should have gone first. Yeah, but I think Mervyn King wins this event as well. But just to be different, I'm going to say he beats Ross Montgomery in the final.
Do you know? Right, I was thinking, who's he going to pick? And I'd managed to get the other half of the bracket open. And because maybe it's just because he's sat at the top of the bracket, and I just looked and I went, "Oh, do you know?" Because what it's about is it's like who can upset Barney, you know, who gets past Barney, you know, because let's be honest again, he's a tour card holder who is currently qualified for the match play. Like, you can't take that away from where he's at the minute, especially compared to the level that everybody else is competing.
From the bottom half of this bracket, though, like, I would not be surprised if any of them are in the final, to be honest. Obviously, Kevin's not playing as well as he was, but the rest of them, any of them could make the final. Yeah, you're right. And if we sat here next week and I said to you, you know, John Henderson got to say, yeah, of course he did. Yeah, he's brilliant, isn't he? He flies through it. Same with a few of the others, but you know, I think it looks like a lovely little tournament. I quite like the look of it. Again, we'll see what the format is going to be. I don't know who's doing it. I can't find it anywhere.
No, I mean, we've got some contacts down there, haven't we? We'll have an ask around and see if we can find. I did debate, like, if had it not been on a Sunday, I would have been there.
I think that's the thing. It's obviously it's a long way to go and get back for me and you, innit? To get down to there. More so, it's still a long way for me.
Yeah, it'd have been a day off work on the Monday, and I've already stuck a week and a half off in to go to the match play, and there's a lot. I'm
getting married later in the year. All of my time off's there.
So you are. Tickets were salty and all. They've come down in price. They have come down in price. So those of you who want to buy tickets, now is the time, because they have reduced a little in price. Right? What have we not?
These hold the Super Series. It's not many, is it? Like,
what's that?
How many is it actually hold?
Someone in the chat room. Tell
100,
us how many we can squeeze in.
100, 120. It can't
I've
be
never
more.
been. I was down there recently, but not on a day.
I've seen it like at the influence event.
I was down there recently.
Pretty full, but it don't look like there's more than that there, if that. Like,
yeah, I was down recently, but I wasn't there on a day where I was allowed in.
Yeah, if you're saying 100, so
yeah, 100 people.
It does concern me that they're reducing the price of tickets for something that there's only 100 tickets for.
Well, it's again, I just think, you know,
even just in the local area, surely you'd sell enough that people would go down to just watch.
Well, I don't know.
King or John Henderson.
I don't know. I think the local area is potentially a saturated market because they can watch darts there every Saturday, can't they?
Yeah, but you can't watch. Well, I suppose you can watch Merv King and Simon Whitlock and
Steve Beaton and Simon Whitlock. And,
everyone Barney there every week.
Yeah, well, let me just tell you that Raymond van Barneveld does the occasional exhibition.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good luck to them all. I hope it goes well. We've done a few picks. Let's have a quick look in the chat room. Let's have a look at who picked what. Because again, I know we've got some big seniors fans in the chat room. Warren, who I know is a big fan, regular attender. Are you going, Warren? By the way, are you going to be down there? I know you are a regular attender at the seniors. He's gone with King beating Duff, which is exactly the same as me. Chris has gone Merv beating Barney. Paul with Barney beats King.
What a look for Merv King at the moment in this.
James has gone the same. A lot of love for Merv King, actually. Liam has gone with Barney beating Hendo. Again, perfectly reasonable.
Surprised, yeah.
That definitely could happen.
I think outside of sort of Martin Adams, Kevin Painter and Freddie Gulliver, like any of the ones that you pick to win, you wouldn't be that surprised at, which is why it blows my mind that Neil Duff and Richie Burnett are 16-1.
Yeah, Bob's got Howson against Barney. Yeah, I was disappointed not to see Derek there because Derek Coulson I had on. Jesus, I tell you what, I had at the World Championships, I got 80-1 for him, and when he got to the semi-finals, and I had a lump, and I thought, whoa, man, like
up the 50p to a pound, did you?
We were booking holidays. Yeah, we were. It was, and thankfully, I had the wherewithal to not ruin the rest of my trip by not just cashing it out and running it too far. James has gone with Barney to win it as well. Interesting. Yeah, good luck to him. Right. I don't know what else we got to. I don't know what else we got to whisper about, but we've got plenty of time left. So,
anything else in there?
Is there anything else on in this week in darts? I've had a busy all week. We had Billy's first Holy Communion at the weekend, so I've been very, very busy. What have I missed?
Drama this week. What drama did we have?
I tell you what.
Littler and Humphreys chirping at Dennis Priestley.
Oh, well. Yeah. What do I make of that? Quite it.
What was it that Littler said? That he'd done more in 12 months than Priestley did in his entire career? I did think it was a little bit ridiculous for Dennis Priestley to say that they let their country down by losing to a very good German pair.
Yeah, I think it was a poor.
I also do think, though, that
context is everything, isn't it? And, we know, because let's be honest, we see all sorts of interviews and all sorts of things said. And if you chop them up and presented them in a certain way, then
there's always a way to do it. So.
Yeah. And is Dennis said that with any malice in him? I don't imagine so. I've met
Probably
Dennis
not, but also,
and I don't think he's that sort of guy.
What I would also say though is and this is something that was put to us by the wonderful Spencer, who is the head of media for Somerset Cricket Club. And he mentioned one of the players talking about people taking things out of context that they said in interviews. And what he said, he told him was that if you don't want to sound stupid, don't say it in the first place. So if you're going to say it, whether you're saying it with malice or not, just think about the game, because if you say it, it will get clipped up and taken out of context. But you have still said it, so everyone's got every right to do that.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yeah, you've got to be relatively aware of what you are saying.
You
and
know what's going to
how
happen now. You say anything like if we said something completely outlandish, I'm sure there would be someone on Twitter battering us about it.
Yeah, it's it. Can you? Well, I don't think I'd want to try and enter into the argument of whether or not Littler has yet exceeded the.
No, that's
Oh, yeah,
what I'm not going down.
I think
Not
it's on a.
That's when we do. That's when we will get clipped up.
Yeah, I think it's on a rabbit hole to nothing. And had I had a bottle of wine open tonight, it's probably one that you and I could have probably killed.
If this was a Thursday night fallout,
yeah, Thursday night fallout. Well, we're still here at 3 a.m. I don't have my third bottle of wine talking about that, but what I don't. Yeah, I think it was I think it was not probably what he meant to say, and I don't think that it's particularly right. I think that it's unfortunate that it came at the same time as the MBE announcements, because it means that the two conversations keep getting crossed over with each other when they're completely fucking irrelevant. The MBEs were awarded.
It's got nothing to do with one.
The MBEs were awarded for things that were done last 6 long ago. They're not for anything that's been done in the last 5, 6 months, 4 months, whatever. They are not linked in any way to the World Cup. The only coincidence in timing is the World Cup happens to be going on around the same time as the King's birthday, which is completely irrelevant. And it's just a coincidence. And I think that the fact that we're seeing narrative, and it's narrative, it's in the mainstream. I nearly said like the grown-up papers, grown-ups media. Then I realised what fucking comics that there's some of these things, that is covering some of this.
Well, that's it. And like you say, the grown-up media is the ones that generally aren't read at the top of them. But
so the comics are trying to stitch these two things in together. That like they've been awarded an MBE, only got beat in the World Cup. How can these two things not be? How can these two things be linked? And it's just fucking stupid. They've got nothing to do with each other.
Absolutely.
Again, the MBEs are awarded on outstanding personal achievement, and if regardless of what you think about who should or shouldn't be awarded with an MBE, like it is difficult to make a case that neither Luke Humphreys nor Luke Littler have not achieved an outstanding personal achievement. They have committed themselves to a sport. They have reached the very, very ceiling of that sport. They have both become world champions. They've both then won lots and lots of additional trophies and very large things, pots of money, big trophies, everything.
Lots of new people and young kids.
They have developed. Yes, and again, it is also like, and this is the frustrating thing is that there's a lot of context in that somebody will see, Luke Littler tweets or put something on. I don't even know what platforms he uses. Does he tweet?
Usually Instagram.
Maybe he's on fucking Kick. I don't know who's on Kick. We're on Kick. We're on Kick, aren't we? We're on Kick tonight. I don't know if anybody else is on Kick, but maybe he's on there. And when people, on there, people snapshot. Screenshot something he said on there and say, "Oh, this is terrible. This is he's not a great ambassador for sport." I would say going to any secondary school in the country that has a darts club that didn't have a darts club 3 years ago, and look at how many people are currently playing darts under the age of 20, and you can directly link that back to. You can directly link it. I don't care what anybody says. There is an absolute correlation between Luke Littler becoming onto the mainstream scene and the rapid expansion in young people playing darts. So whether or not you agree with every bit of everything that he says, and first of all, why the fuck would you? Like, who can you, who have you got in your lives where you agree with everything that they say, where you agree with everything they put on Facebook, where you agree with everything that they put on Twitter? It's absurd to think, well, I wouldn't look at something and say, well, I don't agree with that, and I don't agree with it. Like, of course you don't. Again, the work that went into the nomination for Dieter Hedman was extensive. Right, whether you agree or disagree with whether or not Dieter should be given that award, first of all, she doesn't get a say in which award she gets. Like, but there are people who have obviously, because you have to, spent an awful lot of time gathering an awful lot of evidence, data, reports, interviews, right, whatever, that package of application for that nomination.
They don't just literally pluck them out of the air. Like, there is a process.
Well, this is what I tried to, I think, there seems to be this narrative that someone's like, that literally the people, like the people at the Honours Committee are sort of sat around, like watching Love Island, right?
Like Charlie's just sat there on his birthday just going, yeah, I like him, he can have one.
Yeah,
he's a dick, fuck him off.
That blonde lad on Love Island, Colin. What do you think? Yeah, CBE him, give him one of that. Like, it doesn't work like that.
It's just like someone's just scored a screamer. Like, he can have one. That's a class goal.
It doesn't work like that. Yeah, it's a and again, there's lots of people don't agree with it. Like,
and they have it's their right to not agree with things as well, but it doesn't change the fact that there's also people that agree with the fact that they should get one.
Yeah, and I think
how society works.
It's frustrating that the conversation of them, the untimely exit from the World Cup seems to have got tied up in that narrative.
Yeah, which is nothing to do with it. They just played shit. And
yeah,
that was it.
They just had a rough day at the office and to be fair, they didn't even play that badly. The Germans were just at it, weren't they? Like, they were game, and they came and if you're off,
they played well all weekend. Basically, they were excellent.
Yeah, Six Nations took place. I'll be honest, I had a busy week. I know it took place. From what I could see, which was a Facebook post from Paul James, I think, who put a lot of information on about it. Yeah. It looked like England did absolutely tremendously. It looked sort of everything. And again, I'm more than happy for someone in the chat room to put me right on what happened. And I know there'll be some knowledge in there of people that have had perhaps you've had more time this week to keep up with things. I
think England did they win both the men's and the women's?
It looked like they'd won everything. From what I could, I don't know if Phil's arrived at his hotel. Last
time we heard, he was going through passport control, and he may well still be getting a prostate exam. We don't know. I was going to say
they do like to search. I think he pays the extra for it. To be honest,
usually isn't it? It's usually
upgrades for the premium searches. From what I could see online, it looked like England won virtually everything that they could. So Christopher and Laura Turner won the singles. I thought that Tom Sykes won only because I saw a picture of him holding a large trophy, and I assumed that's what he'd picked up. But it looked like a very, very good day for England in the Six Nations. As that team, it remains very, very strong, doesn't it? I think, again, there's a lot of talent out there, more talent than ever, probably without a tour card. Yeah. But I'm unconvinced that the structure in which they're all having to sort of fight and claw for events that will make it a paying career are still a little bit challenged. What else have we missed this week, folks? Is there anything we've missed in a week in darts? If we haven't missed anything from a week in darts and we've sort of covered and got around everything, then we may have to go early in, which is not a bad thing, because the gloves, the shackles are off this week, are they? We've got
we can let the chat room go wild here with questions.
It's essentially like a substitute teacher. That's what you like. It's like you got.
We have no authority here whatsoever.
We have covered the match play race, Daniel. I think it's finished. Others think
that we see Michael Smith make it.
Yeah, others think that Michael Smith might just smash his way through. Picks for the match play winner and a dark horse. Oh, it's a bit early as well. We can't go too deep into this. Otherwise, we'll have bugger all to speak about in the run up to the match play. The match play, I always think it's hard to pick a dark horse because you've only got 32 players and they're all decent. Like you've had to
you don't get any sort of completely rogue ones in
there. Yeah, but then I think so we talked earlier, of 2021. I was there and I watched what I thought was, when you think this is a bit rogue, there's the wild cards, was that I watched two semi-finals and granted they both got beat in the semi-finals, but who had Christoph Ratajski and Callan Ridds, both making the semi-final of the match play on the same year. So it is still possible, and looking at the strength in depth there. I'll tell you who when I say wild card, I'm just going to say like someone not from the main order of merit. I'm going to take one from the left and one from the right. If we were doing blockbusters, I'd say I'll have. I'm going to say that the winner. We know what his first name will be, don't we? It's going to be another.
Already going with the winner being one of them.
Well, I just think that the opportunity is there for a triple crown. He got beat in the first round last year. He's not going to want it, is he? He's not going to want to go out in the first round again. But he's got a World Championships and he's got a Premier League. So I'm going to have to go with the lad. I think I'm going to have to go with the boy Littler, but because I'm going to keep it keep my eye on the future. My right hand side Pro Tour qualifier that I think could do serious damage, depending on, and when we see the draw as well, he could do serious damage, is Jan van Veen.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm sort of at the point with him that I don't really see him as a dark horse now. I see him as a player that I expect to be competing.
No, I'll give you that. Yeah, like I say, I was using the Pro Tour order of merit.
Yeah, I'm looking at it as well,
as the way to because even still, he's still only ranked 23rd in the world, and in a tournament with only 32 players.
Yeah, I'm going to go for someone that's ranked even lower than him as my dark horse.
Good.
And newly crowned World Cup champion Daryl Gurney.
Oh, that is an interesting one.
As we know from what he said partway through his semi-final, he has got the biggest bollocks on that stage. If anyone could lip read what he said.
Apologies,
it's all right.
My laptop doesn't think it's plugged in.
Oh, fantastic! This will seriously go wrong if you drop off this and it leaves me on my own.
Just.
Yeah. So that's my wild card pick. I'd like to also say that I think it will be someone not named Luke that wins it, but I'm not sure I'm ready to commit to that yet. So that's one for nearer the time.
Have a look in the chat room for us, Cam, just while I'm in.
I will do while you're faffing around.
Yeah. I'm gonna go and get another charger.
Yeah, no worries. Fantastic. I've been left on my own. Brilliant. What else have we got here? Mr. Phil Bars is back in the chat room. Evening, Philip. Have you now made it safely through. You've had your prostate exam and got yourself to your hotel. What else have we got? Daniel.
I'm on the way.
For Blackpool or Martin Schindler. Yep, they could well be. There's still the opportunity for that to be the case. What else are we going to say? What else have we got in here? Phil reckons MVG is that a winner or is that your dark horse? It's a bit rogue to be calling him a dark horse. Adventure House got Cam Menzies as a dark horse, I'm assuming. I don't think he's committing to him being the winner either. Change the subject to who's going to win the T20 Blast. That's Lancashire. That's easy. That's a very, very simple one there. And if anyone thinks any different, then they're probably right.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. You back?
Yeah, well, see, the tactic is, you see, the way to do it is you have to pick a brand. And as long as you stick with the brand, if you charge a hoof soap, you can run next door and pinch one off your wife. So thank God for the Microsoft Surface, all using the same device.
Yeah, that is very, very clever. Well,
what are we up to? What's going on?
Just waffling shite, basically.
Good. That's how we do it.
Yeah, we got on to who's going to win the T20 Blast. If you want to chime in on that.
Oh, you've bloody buggered it, haven't you? Right off. I knew you would.
No, it was Paul. Paul asked the question, and I told him it was Lancashire.
Straight to pick it. Right, let me have a quick look. There's one. We don't speak about him often, and we used to speak about him all the time, right? So Ryan Searle, Daniel's mentioned there.
Yeah, I did nearly go with Ryan Searle.
Now,
before I went to Darryl Gurney.
Ryan Searle is a player who we spent quite a long time talking about. I mean, let's be honest. We've talked about Ryan Searle in the past, thinking about, when is he going to establish himself as a Premier League player? When are we going to see him break through? That Players' Championship finals that we saw a few years ago. He seems to be a player that. And then I get surprised every time I go and look at his record and realise it's not as good as I think it is or should be. I always think that he's sort of done more than he has. And then I look at his record and I think, oh, actually, he's never quite crossed that threshold, has he really? Other than that run at Minehead.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's sort of, you look at it and you go, sort of like you say, we expected him to have made that step by now, but also he probably feels further away from that at the moment than he did a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
I feel like I expect it less to have them big runs right now, and it's probably a little bit subconsciously just to the fact that we haven't seen it on TV for a while now, and we know he's got the game. Like, the game is there. He's good enough to go and win this event. That's how good he is when he's playing at his best. But we haven't seen it for quite a while. And he's still sort of hovering there outside the top 16.
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? Like, it's I get shocked often when I when I go and...
In my head, he's in the top 16. He's a top 16. Yeah. Like, I don't even question it. Like, if I didn't have it in front of me and you asked me to name the top 16, he'd be one of them.
Yeah. And honestly, and in the top of my head, like, if I'm honest, like, his record in my head is miles better than it is in real. Like, when I look...
I beat people every week in my head.
Like, last year, like, lost first round of the Players' Championship, first round of the Grand Prix, second round of the Europeans, second round of the Match Play, first round of the World Masters, third round of the World Championship. And you think, like, that's shit year. Like, for a player in my head is like way up there. It's funny to be remembered, but yeah, he's a player. Sooner or later, he's going to have to do something, or he's not going to be able to hold that. Even that sort of around the top 32. He's going to have to do something and dig in and pick some good amounts of money. Bob's put one in about the tour card race being wide open. Now, I honestly think somebody might have done some work on it and had a look and done some modelling and put something through a simulator. I think we are yet to see the mess that
I can't even get my head around it yet on what difference this is going to make.
I'm confident it's going to make a fucking mess of it, though.
Oh yeah,
it's going to change it irreparably. Like somebody will be able to do something clever. I wonder if I can pump that into ChatGPT. I pay for the premium version. Maybe I should do that and see what sort of mess it will make. I think there's absolutely no doubt that it will irreparably change the tour cards qualification. Oh, sorry, the tour card system in terms of holding on for it, because being able to qualify and pick that 15 grand up is going to just be absolutely monstrous. But also, you're going to
make that much of a difference.
Loads of them are there.
Yeah, exactly.
So then, does it end up just? So then, do you end up with this huge bank of differences where actually none of that action is happening around? That isn't happening around the area where the tour cards are being won and lost, and it ends up being won and lost on a pro tour somewhere over 500 quid. I'm not quite sure yet of what the model is going to, how it's going to change it.
No, exactly, and that's it. And it's so I think it's going to take us a while to sort of figure that out. But because there are 40 of them qualifying from, well, it's 80 of them qualifying essentially from the order of merit. Like it's gonna be rogue in it. It's just
I think but I'm here for it. I am definitely here for it. Right, what else have we got in here? Again, so we've got another Bob's gone straight in. I'm sure he's just watched us here. We'll soon with a major. I think, so there was a conversation. I know I'm going back to Ryan Searle, but it's what the chat room seems to want. They want some more Ryan Searle.
Everyone, we all want more Ryan Searle.
they want more Ryan Searle. But actually, what I would say on that is Ryan Searle used to be on my list when people used to say, who is going to, who's the next player that hasn't won one to win one? Yeah. Ryan Searle, I used to have in that conversation where I used to have him in with, Damon Heta, Ross Smith. Where I've now got Damon Heta, Josh Block, Ross Smith. I had there until he picked the trophy up. Like that. That. Ryan Searle used to be in that conversation for me all the time. Now I think he's somewhere behind those players in terms of his closeness to getting his hands onto a pot.
But if he turns up, he still is good enough, and he's more than good enough, and he can comfortably go and do it. But yeah, like you say, people like Rock, Van Veen.
Just closer to it, aren't they? Closer to the level that you need in order to work your way through a tournament. And you sort of think, well, there's a good game in him, but is there 3 good games in him, or 4 good games, or 5 good games on the same week? Well, and that's what it needs,
isn't it? And you only need to have 1 bad one in there compared to your 4 good ones.
Yeah.
And more often than not, we see that bad game in there somewhere.
Yeah, we do, don't we? And I think we're going to, and it's going to take quite a lot to put that right and change it. Matthew said, who do we think is the first shock loser in the first round of the World?
We are going early here.
I was going to say, we're going early on a lot of things here. I'm more interested in looking at the next one, which is Peter Wright on course for round 2, meeting with Luke Littler. I don't think that's going to worry Mr. Littler at this stage, I am afraid.
No, neither do I. I don't think it will.
Whilst he did have a bit of a run. I'll tell you what I am interested in, though, Cam, and because we've been looking at the match play a little bit, and we'll concentrate a little bit on it. But 2 years ago, you were, I remember, jumping around, high-fiving strangers on the night bus, celebrating the match play win of Nathan Aspinall.
Absolutely.
But where that puts us at the minute is we've got Nathan Aspinall coming in to the match play defending £200,000 of his ranking money, which when that comes off, if he doesn't, let's say he doesn't pick a great deal of money up at the match play, sinks him outside of the top 20. That is a huge part of his ranking at the minute, is that 200 grand of the match play. But we've also
that doesn't really matter, does it? Because he's going to win it again.
Well, I mean, let's see. We'll do that in a couple of weeks. But
I'll be honest. I'd like to say I believe that. I'm not sure.
But we've also got Johnny Clayton defending 100 grand as a runner-up. We've then got Joe Cullen defending 50 grand as a semi-finalist. Now, we've got a semi-finalist in Luke Humphries who probably isn't worried about defending that. He's probably not going into this thinking, fucking, I've got 50 grand to defend. He's probably running into this thinking, I want to get this trophy. Like that's probably what he's looking at doing.
He's not in a position of defending money, is he? He's not even thinking about defending money.
But there is some serious money being defended. Yeah. And some of these players, there's players again with semi-finals, quarter-finals. We just mentioned Ryan Searle a bunch of times defending quarter-final money. We could see some big swings in order of merits and people's ranking again, because there's a decent clutch of players defending, second round quarter-finals who might not be there.
Yeah,
they look like they're not going to quit. I'm just running through there, and I'm looking. Brendan Dolan, Dimitri Vandenberg, Michael Smith, loads. Jose de Souza, Kim Huybrechts, Steve Beaton. We've got a lot of players there that are not going to be there. So we have got some new players picking money up for the first time and going up those rankings. But yeah, are you worried? You're an Nathan Aspinall fan. Are you nervous about where he could end up in the rankings?
Not really. I think he's playing well at the moment, which negates my worry. Really, I think he's playing better at this point than he probably was. Well, probably has been at any point since he won it. He's probably playing better now than he was playing when he won it, to be honest. So I think he'll pick up enough money at the match play and across the rest of the year that it won't matter too much. I don't think we're going to see him fall down to 20th and be falling outside of the top 16 and missing out on things. And to be fair, he gets in the Prem anyway because it doesn't matter what he's done the year before.
Because he's got a good song.
He's got a good song and he makes finals night. So.
Yeah, because everybody likes Mr. Brightside, and he does turn up, doesn't he? He does get himself there. Daniel, I think we've answered Michael Van Gerwen is, to my knowledge, playing in New York.
We know he is playing.
Yeah, I haven't been told that he isn't. So let's work on an assumption. Any more questions? We got about 6 minutes or so left to go. Anybody got anything else to throw into the chat room before we wrap up for the week? I'm having a quick roll back to see if there's.
Can we give Beaton a wild card? Absolutely, we're fully here for that.
He's busy.
Big information from Phil Bars.
Big information
from New York.
He's in a new shirt and that. I'm assuming when he said he's in a new shirt. When he says he's in a new shirt, I assume Phil's like seen him in the airport. Got something Hawaiian on or something. His travelling shirt.
Well, I assume he means it's a new design. He's not just got a new one out the packet.
Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. So I have some speculation. Are you going to put any more in there, Phil? Are we going to guess? Is it green? Is he having a rebrand? Are we going to have?
I think it's a safe bet to say that it's green. Although he obviously brought a lot more black into the last one.
There was
and then
one,
he did have that really rogue one that he wore.
When he got the sponsor, What will Daniel ask this week? I'm going to assume that it will be something to do with Michael Van Gerwen playing at the match play. That's what I'm gonna roll the dice on that being black and green, more black than green. Well, I think we might be onto a we did see a hint, didn't we?
At least it's not that awful one he wore as the one-off, because
he wore it the other night on a motor. So there's some. He wore it on an exhibition in Belgium. So there's some photographs floating around somewhere. I would have thought online about it. Is it? I mean, I'm not against that. Like it is. Let's be honest. You go to a darts event, you see a lot of Michael Van Gerwen shirts. I always feel. I don't know what anyone else's feeling is when you go to, and I know it's Premier League players that I'm talking here, but I always feel like when I'm walking around at a darts event, I see far more Gerwin Price shirts than anybody else. And I don't know whether it's that people like the design, because people are generally booing him out the building half the time, yet pummeling his merchandise and like stands and grabbing up. He seems to do very, maybe that's just my perception. Maybe I just notice people wearing them more than ever. But we always see quite a few of MVG shirts. It'd be interesting if this other one, becomes the established shirt. I assume it's not going to be just something Terry. Yeah, you see a lot of Nathan shirts, and you're seeing more and more Littlers. But yeah, I honestly
you do see a lot of Littlers now, but it does always.
Phil's not back from New York. He's just managed to get connected to the Wi-Fi over there. Will Josh Rock win a major this year?
I mean, he will definitely win one. That's not a question at all.
Yeah,
in my mind.
And see, the thing is, as well, is there is actually there's plenty of opportunity for him. As like I keep saying, we're getting into that time of year where trophies can be picked up. And he's going to play in every. So he's over the next few months.
It's not a watch out. He already has.
Stop it.
I mean, I love the World Cup. I'm more than happy to include it in the majors.
Stop it. Yeah, I mean, but I think, we all know what we're asking there. Like, is he individually going to get his hand on it?
Do we have to start the what is a major conversation?
I'd rather not. I'll tell you what they are, right? So I'll tell you what majors are coming up between now and the end of the year, right? We've got the World Matchplay, the World Grand Prix, the European Championship, the Grand Slam, the Players' Championship Finals, and that's what he's got. Now, I think, like, the World Cup is a TV title, but it does. I don't look at that and say, well, like, so when I look at, players who've won major titles in their own right, Peter Wright, Gary Anderson, and then won a World Cup, I don't, when it's all they've won, like, has John Henderson won a major? I'm not sure that I'm happy to extend that
for the World Cup. No,
because I think it wasn't like. For me, you've got to win it in your own right. Like, you've got to go. Do I think Josh Rock wins a major this year? Yes, I do.
I think I'm with you.
I think I do, and I think it's one of two
Grand Slam.
Oh, that I was. Do you know? I'm glad you went for that, because it wasn't one of the two I was thinking. I was going. If I'm honest, I was going either side of it. I thought
Championship Finals or
European Championships or Players Championship Finals. I think that's where I think he could do some damage on those events there.
I think that's that area of the year is where he
Pairs major. It's the only Pairs major, isn't it? Like, it's a one-off. It's a standalone. It's an invite-only Pairs event. Like, I think, but no, I'm not having it as that you have won.
I mean, it's not completely invite-only. To be fair, you've got to qualify from where you are.
Yes, you do have to qualify for the team you represent. We can't. Otherwise, we would have had some very different teams. I think from. I mean, not from England, but from other countries. I think if there was a different one. The last three winners of the Slam have won the Worlds. Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. And that's why I didn't commit to picking for him to win it. That's why I thought. I went for it.
I would be all here for him winning both. That'd be.
I mean, I know let's be honest, there is absolutely no argument against Josh Rock not being on the trajectory towards like an absolutely elite player. And, there is also like the case that the last 2 times that Josh Rock has played on telly were his 2 most successful outings since he had a tour card. He's just won the World Cup. And then the last time he was on TV playing darts before that was the UK Open when he made a semi-final. And that was the first time he's made a semi-final in a ranking television tournament. Some would call it a major.
We'll not have any Johnson Painters Trophy slander here.
Yeah. But so I think, the last 2 times he's been out playing big events on TV are the 2 most successful events that he's had. I think that he's definitely got one in him, and it is only a matter of time. Right, folks, we have somehow, somewhere managed to guide you all through a full week of darts and everything that did happen and everything that might happen in the weeks to come. Thank you all for getting involved in the chat room. Again, without you all, it is just too... well, it's not even that. Sometimes it's just 2 daft piss lads talking about that. We've not even had a bleeding drink tonight. It's probably far less entertainment all around us. It's two sober blokes trying to catch up on the week's darts. So thank you all for getting involved in the chat room. Thank you, Cam, for joining me on the live lounge tonight. Instead of allowing me to fly solo, as Mr. Bars has flown across the Atlantic to cover all the action from the US Darts Masters. Don't forget, folks, keep an eye on all of the channels to find out when it's Friday this week. The crossover live lounge live with the guys from Shooting the Bull is going on. This, again, like we said at the top of the show, will be available as an audio-only podcast tomorrow. So if you're joining us late and you missed all the banter in the first half of the show, you can pick it up from your podcast supplier, provider, wherever you find them. I've been Dan Simpson. I've been joined by the wonderful Mr. Cam McFarlane. I will see you again next week. Have a lovely week and goodbye.
Take me home, take me on a ride. I got a good feeling.